everybody, Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you a deck centered around Yveltal Break from Steam Siege, and yes, I know I literally just posted another video using Yveltal Break, but at the time I was so focused on trying to get an Yveltal Break deck in standard format that I completely overlooked another possibility that just makes this card so much better. Now, before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It helps us out a lot and lets us do more for you guys. And as for the question of the day, what is your favorite stadium card in Pokemon TCG? I mean, this can be any card from like the Heart Gold Soul Silver era, Black and White era, or XY. I'm including all of those. And if I had to choose mine, I would have to say that my favorite would probably be Skyfield, just because, I mean, that card is ridiculously good. It gives you 8 bench spots, and honestly, it's kind of a personal thing because the first deck that I really, once I got into the TCG, I mean, people that are just getting in know that you have a real problem getting a lot of cards that you need at first, because I mean, now I can just kind of trade for whatever I need, or I have packs saved up in order to, well, quote unquote, buy the cards I need from the TCG forums. But when you first start off, you have a lot of trouble getting the cards you need, and so Mega Rayquaza EX was the first deck. Like, that was my goal. That was when I would know, okay, I have finally made it to the point where I can actually make quality TCG videos for YouTube, and that deck was heavily involved and centered around Skyfield, so kind of a personal thing for me, so Skyfield is my favorite. Let me know what your favorite stadium is in the comments section below and why. I would love to hear what you guys think and, well, and why. But anyway, on to the deck. Like I said, this deck is centered around Yveltal Break from Steam Siege, and I know I made a video about it just like a week or two ago, but I completely overlooked a strategy in Expanded that would make this deck so much better than it is now and than it was in my standard deck. So this one is going to be Expanded Yveltal Break, and in this video I'm pairing it up with somebody that I should have seen at first, and that is Dusknoir with the Sinister Hand ability. Now, I'll get to that in a little bit, but first I'm just going to start off with the Pokemon and go from there. I'm running 2 Shaman because Shaman, setup, that's it. Setup is such a great ability, just being able to draw cards and all you need. But I'm only running 2 because you really don't want to clog your bench with Shaman. I mean, this is really just want to play 1 per match normally. I mean, if you have to, you can play down 2, but that's normally not something you want to do. I'm running 2 Darkrai EX, mostly for the Dark Cloak ability, giving your Pokemon that have Dark Energy attached free treat, but also the Night Spear is a very, very nice attack to have in the back. I mean, it's basically, overall, I think it's a better Baleful Knight, but in this deck, it's actually a slightly worse Baleful Knight. But what it does is it gets damage on the board for Dusknoir to be able to move around with Sinister Hand. And you know what? I've avoided this long enough. I might as well go ahead and talk about the second card in the strategy. I mean, obviously, Yveltal Break has Baleful Knight 120 and does 30 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon that have any damage on them. 3 Dark Energy, that's basically the same as Night Spear, apart from the colorless, but in this deck, both of them need 3 Dark Energy to function, and then I'm running 2 of the Yveltals, I'm running 2 different types of Yveltal, 3 of the Oblivion Wing one, because that's how you get damage on the board in the first place and accelerate energy, but also 1 with the Pitch Black Spear and the Fright Knight, just kind of a good tech card to have against some sort of decks. But anyway, I went ahead and talked about the Yveltal Break. Now for the second guy in the strategy, and that is Dusknoir with the Sinister Hand ability. As often as you like during your turn, you may move 1 damage counter from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another. Now, this is how Yveltal Break gets so much better. You start off like, okay, first turn you go for an Oblivion Wing, that's like 30 damage, and that's okay, but then you evolve into an Yveltal Break. You have the energy on because of Dark Patch and Oblivion Wing to be able to use Baleful Knight, but unfortunately I ran into the position a lot when I was first trying to make a good deck around Yveltal Break, is that I wouldn't have damage on the bench Pokemon. Well, Dusknoir can take that 30 damage that you did with Oblivion Wing and spread it out onto 3 different of your opponent's bench Pokemon, and suddenly you're hitting for 120 on your opponent's active Pokemon and sniping 3 things on the bench for 30 damage each. All of a sudden that goes from 120 base power to doing 210 in 1 turn. if your opponent loads up the bench, then you can just do that much more. And I mean, this combo, I absolutely love it. I've done a few test matches with this deck, and it is so ridiculously fun to use. And Yveltal Break, I really think, will hit its stride, hits its stride with Dusknoir in the back. So these two are such a great combo. And I mean, it takes a turn to get set up, but once you get set up, you just are dealing so much damage. It is absolutely ridiculous. And then I'm also running one Keldeo, just because, I mean, Keldeo, rush in, retreat, maybe your opponent tries to Lysander in your Dusknoir to get it stuck active. Well, Keldeo can just rush in and retreat out of there. And then I forgot to mention, as for the Dusknoir, I'm running a 2-1-2 line of Duskull, Dusclops, and Dusknoir, because you really only need one per match. I mean, if your opponent knocks it out, well, that kind of sucks, but hopefully you will have gotten enough use out of Dusknoir to where basically Yveltal is just able to clean up the game, because really you will only need like 1 or 2 turns of using Dusknoir, because then the damage is there, and Yveltal is just able to start heavily damaging your opponent's team and basically cleaning up. As for the cards, as for the item cards, we're running 2 Battle Compressor, 2 get Dark Energy, and supporters into the discard pile. I mean, that's for Oblivion Wing, Dark Patch, that type of thing. 1 Computer Search. Like I said, I always prefer Computer Search just because it gets you literally any single card you need. 4 Dark Patch to help get the 3 Darkness Energy that you need onto Yveltal Break or even Darkrai, just to power them up a lot quicker. That way you don't have to spend 3 turns manually attaching in order to Baleful Night. And the combination of Hypnotoxic Laser and Verbank City Gym is another way that I'm going to get damage in play for Dusknoir's Sinister Hand. I mean, Hypnotoxic Laser is just a phenomenal card that is kind of splashable in almost every single deck if you have another. Actually, it is completely splashable in almost every single deck if you have room for it. I mean, that is if you have room. This deck actually has part of its strategy centered around Hypnotoxic Laser, so I fit it in a little bit easier than some other decks, but really this just gets 30 damage on the board between turns when combined with Verbank City Gym, and then coming back into your turn if your opponent is not poisoned still. Well, if your opponent is poisoned still, then all of a sudden you have 60 damage that Dusknoir can move around like crazy. So these two really help with the damage spread. 1 rare candy to go straight from a Duskull into a Dusknoir. 1 super rod to get some stuff back that you have to discard. Maybe you have to Juniper away 2 Dusknoir. Well, you can just super rod those back in and you don't lose the Dusknoir strategy for the rest of the game. 1 switch just in case Keldeo doesn't cut it for some reason, and like if it's prized or something and your opponent Lysanders up a Dusknoir. But this is also where Darkrai comes in very handy, because Dusknoir has the very high 3 retreat cost, but with Darkrai's ability, attach a Darkness Energy to it, and all of a sudden it has free treat. So that's why I'm running 2 Darkrai instead of 1, just because that free treat is so essential in this deck. I'm also running 3-4-4 of Trainer's Mail, Ultra Ball, and VS Seeker. I'm only running 3 Trainer's Mail as opposed to 4 just because I wanted to fit another card in, and I was like, you know what, I can forego 1 Trainer's Mail to get another Hypnotoxic Laser or a switch or something like that. 4 Ultra Ball are used just to get everything out. I mean, Ultra Ball is fantastic and you really don't want to use anything else in this deck. 4 VS Seeker to reuse all of our supporters, because we are running a fairly thin supporter line. We are only running 8 just because I have so many item cards and energy that I want to use. 1 Lysander to bring something out. I mean, Lysander, you could run 2, but in this deck, I mean, Dusknoir lets you move around damage as much as you like, to where if your opponent is building up something on the bench, you can just move a ton of damage to it and knock it out with the Baleful Night. So, I mean, Lysander is a great card, but it's not overly necessary in this deck. 4-2 of N and Juniper, just because, I mean, that's the line I like to run. I like to run 4 Juniper for the guaranteed, and then 2 N to be able to put cards back into our deck and also draw or maybe disrupt our opponent. And I mean, N, I don't know. Juniper has the added benefit of potentially putting Dark Energy in the discard pile, so that is another reason why you would want to run 4-2 as opposed to 3-3. And then 1 Skyla. I only run Skyla really in decks where I run Rare Candy, just because, I mean, that's the way of searching out Rare Candy if you absolutely need to. I mean, I would prefer to draw into it, but if I absolutely need to, I can Skyla for a Rare Candy, or a Hypnotoxic Laser in a lot of cases. I'm running 2 Verbank City Gym, just 2-2 of Verbank and Laser. You can definitely experiment with how much with which type of line you want to run with these guys. Really, I only want Hypnotoxic, well, I want Hypnotoxic Laser going for the whole match. I mean, that goes without saying, but I only need the damage from Hypnotoxic Laser really 1 or 2 turns, just enough to where I can spread it out with Dusknoir, and then at that point it's like, oh, okay, well, the sleep is nice, but you don't really need it. And then 10 Darkness Energy, just to guarantee that I have enough when I need it. I mean, if you have 3 on 2 Yveltal and then 1 on Keldeo. That still leaves you 3 to work with, so go nuts with it. But anyway, I have rambled for too long. Let's just go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against a DJ Hyper 19, and we do have the advantage. My opponent is running a Grass, Water, and Normal deck, so I have no idea what my opponent is running. But anyway, let's hope we go first. I mean, that way we could potentially get a Dusknoir up first turn and stuff like that. We do win the coin flip. That is very nice. I mean, to be honest, this deck doesn't exactly mind going second just because it allows you to Oblivion Wing turn 1 and then start getting damage on the board. And I actually start with a phenomenal hand. Like, this is really great, actually. I mean, Ultra Balls, Computer Searches, all of that. And okay, it looks like I'm up against an Aerodactyl Omastar deck, which is something that I've actually never run into in Expanded. I've run into it in Standard, I mean, a decent amount. I wouldn't say quite a bit just because that's such a gimmick deck that people don't really run that often. And unfortunately, I only get two cards off of Mulligan, but you know what? That is good enough. I mean, this hand is beyond great, and it just got even better because I'll be able to discard energy. I mean, wow, this was as good of a starting hand as you could want. I mean, the only thing more would be maybe just starting with the Duskull so I don't have to Ultra Ball for it, but you know what? That is completely worth it. I'm getting rid of the Battle Compressor now just because I really don't need it. I mean, I'll be able to discard energy into my discard pile with Ultra Ball and Computer Search and stuff like that, but I'm going to Ultra Ball for a Duskull, Computer Search, or not Computer Search, Ultra Ball, get another energy in the discard pile, and that's why I did not need the Battle Compressor, because I'm already going to get 2 energy in the discard pile just from Ultra Ball. Shaman into some more cards. I mean, what would make my board complete is another Darkrai, well, another Yveltal, and then a Darkrai. So I have 2 Darkness energy in the discard pile. What I think I'm going to go ahead and do is Computer Search, get rid of the Darkness Energy in the Trainer's Mail. I really don't need the Trainer's Mail. I've actually found that I've been discarding that a lot lately with my Computer Searches. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the Darkrai on the bench. Yeah, I'll attach the Darkness Energy to the Keldeo so that it can have free treat. And then I'm going to rush in. That way I can Dark Patch onto my Yveltal on the bench and potentially get more energy onto it. That way I can Baleful Night potentially turn 2, depending on what I draw. And then I'm just going to get 6 cards. I mean, my opponent has plenty. I mean, my opponent had 6 cards anyway, so I really don't think it helped that much. I even draw another Dark Patch, and that is great. And this is actually, that's a near perfect first turn, but then I'm just going to go ahead and retreat, I think, into Darkrai, just because I don't want my Keldeo active in case it gets put to sleep, because Keldeo is my way of resetting the damage, or resetting the status on my Pokemon. So if Keldeo gets put to sleep, then I have no way of retreating it unless I draw my switch or something like that. But either way, Darkrai isn't going to be attacking, so it's fine if it takes a hit. I'm a single energy and an Yveltal a break away from being able to Baleful Night turn 2. And I mean, I already have a Duskull set up. I can Ultra Ball for a Dusclops. I could Ultra Ball for an Yveltal break. Really, whatever I want. And this is the power of this deck. I mean, it's actually surprisingly fast. And then once it gets set up, you're able to just start doing an absurd amount of damage to your opponent, to where they might not even be able to come back. But it looks like my opponent is okay. What does Shuckle do? Hide a berry, draw 2 cards, then put a card. Okay. I mean, I guess that works because you get to see 2 cards and it's not an Acrobike. Or actually, even with Aerodactyl, that works even better because you can potentially draw into an Aerodactyl and put it on the bottom of your deck and then use Old Amber, although I doubt, because my opponent's running the Archie's Omastar, I doubt my opponent is going to use Old Amber in this deck. But with the synergy with Shuckle, he very well might. So, I mean, that's actually something that's kind of cool, and unfortunately, my opponent has to discard an Aerodactyl, so unfortunate for him to draw another Shaman. And wow, I think Yveltal is going to be able to start doing some major damage. So actually, what I think, you know what? I could Ultra Ball for a Dusclops, but I kind of just want to go ahead and, I don't know, maybe get another Yveltal on the bench. Even so, because I mean, like, I don't want to be over aggressive and leave myself open to my opponent suddenly being able to knock out my Yveltal break, and then I'm just kind of stuck. So what I think I'm going to actually do is Ultra Ball for another Yveltal, go ahead and get that on the bench and just start powering that thing up so I have a backup attacker. I mean, unless my opponent has... Okay, so my opponent had nothing and I want to just improve my board position as much as possible so I can just start taking Okos on everything, and even another Dark Energy. So, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and Ultra Ball, get rid of the Lysander and the Duskull. Yeah. To grab probably an Yveltal Break or a Dusk. Yeah, you know what? I like that idea. I'm just going to stick with an Yveltal to improve my board position, put an energy on that. Yes, I know that I could have gotten an Yveltal Break this turn, but I think I'm just going to get some energy on the board with an Oblivion Wing from my Yveltal, and then have Dusknoir be able to start spreading that out so I can Baleful Knight for the maximum possible damage. And then let's just go ahead and retreat into this Yveltal so I can fully power up my Yveltal Break on the bench and just be really good to go. So yeah, I mean, my board state is nearly perfect. The only thing that could make it better is if I had a Dusknoir or a Dusclops in play, but I mean, again, that was all on me just wanting to make sure to improve my board position as much as possible. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're obviously in the winning position at this point. Like, there's nothing my opponent can necessarily do to not... I mean, a Muscle-Banded Jetstream would knock out this Yveltal in one hit, but my Yveltal Break would be able to respond immediately. And let's hope my opponent didn't get anything good off that maintenance, because if he drew an Archie's, that'd be incredible. And, okay. My opponent just got another energy on the Shaman and did Hideberry. So I actually think that we are just fine. Well, I mean, obviously, we're just fine. But my opponent is starting off very slow, and he actually just concedes. Oh, that would have been the turn that I would have wanted to get a Dusknoir in play to just start spreading out damage and doing Baleful Knight to be able to knock out my opponent and get a ton of damage on. But unfortunately, we do not. So, I mean, that match was good. It showed you how the setup is supposed to work, but you know what? Just the setup isn't good enough. I'm going to go ahead and try to find another match where we actually get Baleful Knight going with Sinister Hand. Alrighty, we have found one against Madison 115, and with a Fire, Psychic, and Normal deck. So I mean, the decks that immediately jump out to me with that type spread would be I don't know, probably like Mega Houndoom Bats or the Volcarona version of Mega Mewtwo Y, but I have no idea. This is expanded. My opponent could be running any amount of things. I mean, we'll just have to see. And unfortunately, my opponent is taking a little bit of time to load the game. There we go. All right, I mean, that's not their fault. That's their internet's fault, and boy, do I understand that feeling. We do lose the coin flip. That's honestly not the worst thing in the world. Just because, I mean, we will be able to Oblivion Wing first turn and stuff like that, and... Okay, I start with the Yveltal that I really don't want to start off with in this scenario, but it's really not the end of the world. What I can do is go ahead and Ultra Ball, get rid of the Yveltal Break and the Skyla, Super Rod that back in, play the energy, and go from there. But I mean, at least, okay, so this is a Delphox deck, but then what's the Psychic Pokemon? I don't know. So we see the Rocky Helmet. That immediately tells me that this deck is not particularly top tier, but actually I might be able to end this match really, really quickly if I'm able to get, well, there you go, Hypnotoxic Laser, an Oblivion Wing, and then a Verbank. I'd just be able to win the game right now, but we do get heads. What I think I'm going to do, like I said, is Ultra Ball, get rid of the Skyla and the Yveltal Break to grab... Yeah, let's just go ahead and grab a Duskull, try to get things started as quickly as possible. Play that there. Go ahead and Super Rod back in the Yveltal Break. And then actually just Juniper to get one Darkness Energy in the discard pile, because odds are I'll draw into another or not. Okay, I just draw into a ton of Pokemon, and... you know what? Based on how slow my opponent's start is and the fact that I have him poisoned, so he is going to have damage on the board. I mean, this isn't horrible. It's not great because I didn't get the energy. I got a little greedy with the Juniper. But I mean, who would have thought that I would just draw into 5 Pokemon and I cannot talk right now. Draw into 3 basic Pokemon, 2 of their evolutions, and then a VS Seeker and not draw a single energy. So I mean... Well, and a Verbank City Gym, which was actually something nice. I will go ahead and say, you know what, TCGO, you were nice to me. And never mind Pokemon Center Lady, TCGO, you are not very nice to me at all. But it's unfortunate. I mean, I'm still in a good enough position because my opponent is having a pretty slow start. He'll only be able to hit me for 40 damage, which is absolutely nothing. But hopefully off this Juniper this turn, I will be able to just start setting up and going crazy from there. And wow, what are the odds of that? I draw into all 3 of my Yveltal breaks in 1 turn. But I mean, on the bright side, at least I can use all of them and don't have to discard them. So I don't know. I guess TCGO is coming through a little bit. But now I can just Juniper for a full 7 cards and not have to discard anything. And this is even better. I get a Dusknoir. I have a Darkness Energy in the discard pile. I'll be able to start getting some damage onto my opponent. Let's go ahead and get another Darkness Energy onto an Yveltal break. And wow, I've drawn into so many Pokemon already. This is kind of ridiculous. But I mean, I'll be able to Oblivion Wing. I won't be able to accelerate any energy. If I had drawn a Battle Compressor, that would have been even better, because I would have been able to Baleful Knight just immediately and win the game. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. Well, actually not immediately win the game, because I wouldn't have been able to Baleful Knight. Never mind, I am a dirty, dirty liar. I apologize, guys. And okay, my opponent is unfortunately going to be able to get a Delphox, but this is kind of nice for me, because even though I did have a very slow start, like an uncharacteristically slow. I mean, and what are the odds of me drawing into all of those Pokemon so quickly and then not drawing a supporter this turn? So I mean, it's a little bit weird that I drew into stuff like this, but I mean, it's fine because I'll at least get to more than likely have a full setup, and my opponent will have a pretty good setup, so more than likely the game will actually last more than a couple turns. So I mean, that's something that I can hang my hat on at least. And then I have a Lysander, but that's not the supporter I want. In fact, that's literally the only supporter that wouldn't draw me cards in this situation, because even if I had a Skyla, I could Skyla for a Computer Search or Ultra Ball and then play a Shaman down. But you know what? It's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and Lysander in the Kangaskhan so I don't have to keep taking Rocky Helmet damage. And then I could play the Yveltal down, but then that would leave me no spot for a Shaman if I draw one. So I'm just going to keep getting more damage on the board. Unfortunately, I'm getting no acceleration just because I'm drawing relatively poorly. I mean, how many of you get like 7 Pokemon off of... Well, not even 7. I got like... Well, there was 5 on one, and then I got 3 on another. So there was 8 Pokemon on 2 Junipers. So, I mean, I drew about half the Pokemon in my deck in 2 turns. So that's a little bit weird, but you know what? I'm just going to roll with it. And my opponent goes for an Evo Soda. Oh, does he have a Delphox break? If he does, that could be a little bit problematic, because then he could start accelerating energy. And with our setup, I mean, our setup is phenomenal. Our hand is awful. Okay, luckily he did not have a Delphox break, so that buys us at least another turn. Never mind, it does not buy us a turn, because my opponent will just be able to switch into the Bouffalant. Why wouldn't you? I don't know. Oh, yes, I get an N. Finally, I'll be able to draw some cards, and luckily I haven't taken any prizes yet, but you know what? I'm going to save that last spot for a Shaman or a Keldeo, and then just end, give my opponent a new hand, but at least I get a new hand as well. And look at this, I can go ahead and start Dusknoiring like crazy. Well, that depends if I get the right cards. I might just go ahead and get some damage on the Bouffalant this turn, and then power up an Yveltal on the bench. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and Computer Search, get rid of the Rare Candy and maybe the Keldeo. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and get rid of the Darkness Energy and the, Darkness Energy and Rare Candy. I don't need the Rare Candy anymore to grab a Dusknoir, just to start spreading some damage around if I need it. And then what I think I'm going to go ahead and do is play the Energy onto the Yveltal on the bench, and then play the Shaman. I really don't need the Keldeo this match, at least I don't think so. I mean, Keldeo is just a nice card to have in some cases, but let's just make sure... yeah, I know I have a Darkness Energy in the discard pile, so I'm just going to go ahead and Oblivion Wing. Does a massive 10 damage to that Bouffalant, but then I get to power up my Yveltal with energy. And finally, next turn, we will be able to start going for powerful Baleful Knights, and that is exactly what I wanted. Well, Baleful Knights with Sinister Hand, which is, like I said, exactly what I wanted. But luckily, my opponent's Bouffalant is stuck, meaning that I will be able to get some more damage on it. Well, yeah, I'll be able to just keep that active, and I could Lysander in the Delphox to knock it out next turn, but I don't think... I mean, never mind, I do have enough damage because of Sinister Hand, and why did my opponent heal off the Kangaskhan? I don't know. I don't know why my opponent decided to heal off the Kangaskhan, but you know what? It is fine. If I was him, I would have healed off the Delphox Break, just because that's the only thing that can really damage me at this point, and he would want to keep that as healthy as possible. But the Finnegan, all I need is 2 damage counters on it to get a knockout, so I think that's what I'm going to go for this turn. Okay, there's no darkness in the discard pile. What I can do is slap an energy onto this Yveltal to go ahead and at least get a Baleful Night going, and then I think I'm just going to Skyla. I'm not sure exactly for what. Actually, you know what? I'm going to Skyla for a Dark Patch, I think, but first I'm going to Ultra Ball. Just grab something. I don't really care what. Grab another Yveltal. That's all I need. I have another VS Seeker in my hand, so that's why I'm able to go for the Skyla. But at this point, I'm just going to try to power up as many Yveltal and get them ready to go as quickly as possible. So if my opponent does happen to knock it out, I have another one ready to go in the back, and I can just Juniper next turn. But here's where the fun part begins. I can go ahead and Sinister Hand. The Bouffalant will be knocked out in one shot by the Baleful Knight anyway, but I can spread out damage onto all of my opponent's Pokemon to where Baleful Knight will hit them all for 30 damage, and then I can even, you know what, just to get the max damage possible, I'm going to go ahead and Baleful Knight. Just keep the damage on the board, not knock out the Finnegan just yet. I mean, I could have, and I mean, maybe, but I kind of wanted to make sure that I got enough damage across the board and kept it there just in case my opponent managed to go for another Pokemon Center Lady on the Delphox so I could get the knockout on it while also having enough damage to spread out to all of my opponent's other Pokemon. So this is exactly what this deck is supposed to do. I'm so excited that I'm getting to show you guys how it's supposed to work, and my opponent will be able to hit us for a Blaze Ball this turn for a good amount of damage, but it won't knock me out unless my opponent has like attachment. Well, I guess he doesn't have attachment because he already attached to the Kangaskhan on the bench. And okay, so Braixen just needs 10 more damage on it to knock it out with a Baleful Knight. And okay, my opponent's going to go for a Blaze Ball. That is completely fine. I think, should I hold on to my hand? Yeah, actually, first off, I'm going to go ahead and Sinister Hand, move enough damage off of the Delphox to where I can just barely knock it out with Baleful Knight, but also knock out the Braixen in one shot, well, with the Baleful Knight as well, and also get damage on the Kangaskhan. So I'm going to put him down to 20 HP because Baleful Knight will do 120. And then get some damage on the Kangaskhan's. It really doesn't matter what order, but I'll also be able to knock out the Braixen as well. And I'm going to actually sit on my hand for now. I think I want to keep the VS Seeker in my deck just to have that versatility. And although my Yveltal does take quite a bit of damage from that Rocky Helmet to where it's almost knocked out and will be knocked out by a Kangaskhan next turn if he gets another energy, I have another Yveltal on the bench ready to go. I can go ahead and Dark Patch to it just so it can attack immediately. And then I can even play another Yveltal onto my bench. So, I mean, yeah, that was kind of expected. I mean, I just had such a wonderful, wonderful setup with Yveltal Break and Dusknoir. Now, I didn't even know I had a daily challenge going with that. But yeah, I mean, that is exactly how the deck was supposed to work. I know it wasn't exactly the most competitive match. I mean, my opponent wasn't running a top-tier deck. But I mean, it was still a very good match that I was able to set up fully, show you guys what this deck is supposed to do, and go from there. So I'm really glad I finally was not blinded by trying to just make Yveltal Break in Standard and was able to figure out the Dusknoir Sinister Hand thing, because I mean, that's actually really, really good if you're able to set up and not draw like half of your Pokemon in 2 turns. So I mean, it was a little bit of a slow setup, but I mean, this deck does set up a lot faster if you don't draw all those Pokemon. I mean, but either way, guys, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Feel free to leave your comment in the comment section below to answer the question of the day. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.